Well, President Trump, as we mentioned, is in Puerto Rico today, meeting with first responders and victims of Hurricane Maria. Tomorrow he will head to Las Vegas. Before he left this morning, though, he addressed the horrific shooting.
We'll be talking about gun laws as time goes by. But I do have to say, how quickly the police department was able to get in was really very much of a miracle. They've done an amazing job.
Bob Cusack is editor-in-chief of The Hill. He joins us now. Bob, we heard the president there say we'll address gun control as the time goes by. You know, the NRA put something like $50 million behind Donald Trump to help him beat Hillary Clinton. Do you really see him turning his back on them? Do you think the president will push reforms?
Rena, I don't think so. It is interesting, though, in June of last year, he did back a Democratic effort that has some bipartisan support that if you're on the no-fly list, the terrorist list, that you shouldn't be able to get a gun. But as commander-in-chief, he has not pushed for that change to the law, which is opposed by the NRA. So, no, I just don't. I think there'll be some more talk of changing gun laws, but I don't see. Remember, the Houses and Senate and White House are all run by Republicans. So I just don't see any real movement happening anytime soon on this.
You know, at the same time, you mentioned Republicans, and here's what Speaker of the House Paul Ryan had to say about what Congress can do to prevent shootings.
One of the things we've learned from these shootings is that often underneath this is a diagnosis of mental illness. This is why we spent years working on mental illness reform, Congressman Murphy's bill, and that's why the House of Representatives passed landmark mental health reform just a year ago. That law is now being implemented. So I think it's important that as we see the dust settle and we see what was behind some of these tragedies, that mental health reform is a critical ingredient to making sure that we can try and prevent some of these things from happening in the past. So that's just one example of the things that Congress has done to make sure that we can try and get ahead of these problems.
The Democrats call for gun control. The Republicans pivot to mental health. Bob, is there anything to suggest that both sides will start some sort of constructive or new dialogue on this issue?
I don't. I think that the best chance for any bill to pass was after Newtown in Connecticut, which Republicans note has some very strict gun laws. So I just don't see momentum changing. At the same time, there's a lot of frustration with the public that something must be done, and Congress should do something, whether it's on mental health or guns, because these things keep happening, and they're going to probably continue to happen, unfortunately.
Bob, I do want to ask you about these two gun bills that are moving through Congress right now. There's one that eases restrictions on silencers. The other eases conceal and carry across state lines. Do you think now is really a time when Congress can ease those restrictions?
I don't think, certainly not this week and maybe not this month, but these are bills that are backed by the NRA, and certainly some of these bills, including one that could have been voted on this week, it has bipartisan support. 4 Democrats in the House are co-sponsors. So, but I wouldn't look for any of these votes anytime soon. It's just way too sensitive.
Recent CBS News polling found that 54% of Americans believe that gun laws should be more strict. And you look at the flip side of this, 11% said they should be less strict, but also 33% said that they should be kept the same. So when you add the 11% to the 33, you get 44% of the country that more or less don't want the gun laws changed. How do these numbers affect the conversation and the debate on Capitol Hill?
Well, I think they have a big impact, Rena. When you think about Republicans, there are a lot of Republicans and some Democrats, too. They don't have to worry about general election candidates. They have to worry about primary challengers. And if your district is gun-friendly and is a big backer of the Second Amendment, and you do something like this, we saw with Joe Manchin from West Virginia, conservative Democrat. He was backed by the NRA in his last re-election race, but then he also authored a bill on background checks with Pat Toomey, a Republican from Pennsylvania. We'll see if NRA now backs Manchin, and that's a very powerful endorsement in some parts of the country, no doubt about it.
Meanwhile, I want to ask you about the president in Puerto Rico today, meeting with first responders and also victims of Hurricane Maria. What are you looking closely for this visit and for the president to do while he's on the ground there?
This is a very interesting trip, and unlike trips to other hurricane areas like Florida and Houston, Obviously, he's gotten in this public feud with the mayor of San Juan. He was praising everybody today, but left her out of the praise that he was doling out to all the first responders and other politicians. So I think that's one to watch. This is some, he said some very controversial things regarding Puerto Rico and the tweets. He said today that the budget has been out of whack, I'm paraphrasing, because of the storm, and that can be taken in a number of different ways. But I think what he's doing, going down there, is a smart move. He wants to appear presidential, and he's committed to rebuilding Puerto Rico, who had a massive debt problem even before this. This is going to be exponentially worse, and Congress is going to have to do something about that, and the administration as well. So it really behooves both sides, whether politicians in Puerto Rico and the president, to get along, and because this recovery effort, coupled with that debt problem, is going to go on for months.
Yeah, that debt problem is very significant. And, you know, the fact, though, that the president over the weekend attacked critics of the disaster response as politically motivated ingrates, that was his words. Today, he praised the governor, as you mentioned, for not playing politics. So why does he keep bringing this up over and over again?
He always says he's a counterpuncher, and he is, and he definitely felt like the mayor was attacking him personally. And I also think he wants to defend the people who are working for him to improve things. And obviously, it's a very difficult situation. But some say he went too far, and it got personal. And that's what a lot of people are saying. This should not be personal. Let's just get focused on remedies. And the mayor was very frustrated, felt like things were not happening quickly, and that's why she had a public plea to help. And Trump took it as personal criticism.
Bob Cusack, thank you for joining us, Bob.
Thanks, Rena.